Greetings, salutations. We're going to be talking about paranormal standards. Now, before you say it in the comments, I already know. There are no standards when it comes to the paranormal, right? We don't have a set list of things that have to be done a specific way. And yet, we do have standards. Primarily, these standards are put in place by groups that came way before, back when I was just a wee one, back in my teenage years, yes. 20-ish years ago, in fact. Now, back then, the big names on television were Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, Most Haunted, and other things like Are You Afraid of the Dark and stuff like that, right? Now, Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, Most Haunted, they're the ones that basically came up with the standard when it comes to paranormal investigation. The ghost hunts, right? Seeking out what may or may not be there. They made it. They developed it. And unfortunately, people may hate me for this, those groups, at that time and still currently, are paranormal entertainers. They worked for TV programs. They worked for TV stations. They went to places all around the world, for the most part. They got to experience amazing views, histories, lores, dive into a number and multitude of devices. Some of them we still use today, and some of them have kind of gone to the wayside. However, they did make the standard. Now, I know I'm probably getting a little flack for saying this, but yes, Jason Hawes is a paranormal entertainer. Just like Zach Bagans, Sam and Colby from YouTube, Twin Paranormal, Oh My Gosh, Elton Castell from the Overnight Crew. They are paranormal entertainers. They've made a fair bit of profit by being a little over the top, let's say, using devices that, for the most part, don't do exactly what we are told that they do. Now, yes, Jason Hawes is more of an investigator than he is an entertainer, but he is still a paranormal entertainer. His actions, his verbiage back in the day helped create what goes on now, in the current modern era of paranormal investigating. And unfortunately, he has to hold that mantle a little bit. He has to hold that title. Paranormal entertainers are ruining the paranormal space because of their standards. Their standards are to use faulty devices. Devices like the DR60, the spirit boxes, these apps, right? These massive word banks of random generation. I play a lot of D&D. I know our RNG, all right? I know it very well. And the odds of scoring someone's name, like in Twin Paranormal's case, River, Ryan, Wyatt, my own name, right? The odds of that ever happening are literally astronomical. And they get to happen on a regular basis. That's another big standard in the paranormal entertainer field. You're constantly getting interaction. You're constantly having something go on. You're not going a single investigation without having something spooky and wild. They have a lot of devices. Those devices play off of each other very frequently. In fact, I saw a video just earlier today involving the apps that you get on your phone, right? These things right here. Little voice apps. It was Joe Vitale who was showing off that you can just turn it upside down, shake it a little bit, and it'll activate. It'll give you a word from the word bank. A word bank that you can, if you pay for the apps on a number of them, put your own words in. That'll eventually come up. Might be why some people get their names to come up on a regular basis. I'm not calling anybody out here, but I'm just saying. It kind of makes sense. Another big standard in the paranormal entertainer field, because that's what paranormal's become. It's become a place for entertainers. You have to go to big named locations. And you got to pay big money to stay overnight there. And you got to praise this place. You got to go in depth on all the witnesses and every single demonic entity that may, or more than likely, not exist there. And you have to play that it does. And boy, do these people play. Sam and Colby have been possessed a number of times at this point. Twin Paranormal say a demon attacks them almost on a weekly basis. If you've watched Ghost Adventures, you've seen Zach get possessed where he's choking himself, and Aaron's always, having weird sensations and feelings. Now they are entertainers. They're very entertaining, but they're bad for the paranormal space. These standards that they've created is what other smaller investigative groups are trying to do now, because that's what brings in these dollars, these big buco bucks. You get hundreds of thousands of views on a video saying, "Demon house, I was scratched, scariest night of my life." And you're using cat balls. They light up by a little shake. I use 2 fingers. I can shake my camera. You can hear my stuff rattle up here. 2 fingers, that's all it takes. Not the only thing, it only takes 2 fingers. But we can't rely on these individuals to rule the space, to keep setting these standards for us. But that's what they've done. They've set the standard that unless you're going out there with a spirit box, a DR60, these faulty pieces of equipment, REM pods that are literally just a junior theremin, where it goes wee wee, and then that's it. It's a toy. They're the ones who have created these spaces. They're not going out with anemometers, right, to test wind speed if there is gusts of wind. They're not going out with proper data loggers to obtain actual factual evidence, barometric pressure, right, humidity. They're not checking to see the foundation of a building, if there's any major cracks in it, any water damage inside the walls. They're not looking to see if there are any faulty electrics. That's what your EMF gauge is for. You can trace and track where the greatest magnetic field is. That's what these devices are for. And once you've used these devices and you have basically cleared out every possibility, then you're left with perhaps the paranormal. Once everything logically and scientifically has been eliminated, then you have paranormal. But the standard is you just claim it to be as such and you go on with your day. These paranormal entertainer groups are the ones that are setting the standard. Paranormal investigators, right? Individuals that go out and try to use science to debunk a claim or validate a claim or replicate a claim. They're the ones that are much smaller. They get shot down a lot easier. They tend not to have the money to continue to go to these larger locations to do these things. They're the ones that more often than not have no visual evidence of things going on. They're also the ones that have not created their own standard because there isn't one for actual paranormal investigation yet. All these paranormal investigators, Boo Productions, Kenny Biddle, Side Eye Guy, Beardo Gets Scared, right? Mr. Gray, Joe Vitale. They are investigators. They are looking into claims at locations and seeing if they can give any validity to those claims. They're not out to seek a ghost. They're out to check a claim. But because there is no set standard for investigation itself in the paranormal field, they're kind of doing what they can do with what knowledge they have available to them. Entertainers don't have that. They don't need that. Their entire list of standards was set up for them years ago. Over a decade ago, in fact. And people have been following that same playbook ever since. If you hear a noise, you go, oh my God, ghost! And you freak out about it. You put a REM pod somewhere and you have a walkie-talkie on you, you can activate your own REM pod. You can make it happen. You walk around with music boxes with little motion sensors on them, which are also affected by lasers, by the way. So you can activate them. They activate with dust moving in front of them, a moth landing nearby, a spider walking across the lens. All of these groups, right? All of these big name entertainers in the paranormal field, they make their money. They get all these views. They get all these subscribers primarily off of a lie, off of a ruse. Not necessarily a scam, but definitely a lie. They're not suffering the hours when they go out there. They're setting it up. They're planning it all out as if it was an actual TV shoot. It's all planned. It's all staged in one way, shape, form, or another. It's all embellished. And you can tell that by the reactions because the majority of them are never genuine. The devices they use have been, for the most part, tore apart and shown to have severe flaws and give a multitude of false positives on a regular basis, just like consistently, constantly, without freaking fail. Now, it's not just the paranormal entertainers that have these standards. Locations have these standards. Locations run off of the paranormal entertainers. A paranormal entertainer goes there, it gives credence to the claims of a location, and then that location will then charge everyone else to visit a slightly higher premium to come visit. Locations often tend to block off certain areas, block off access to investigators and the general public. But the entertainers get to see these spots. It's always a question I've had in my mind, why? But the answer is very simple. These locations wouldn't exist without the entertainers. And this is where I circle back to Jason Hawes and Ghost Hunters. Jason Hawes, Ghost Hunters, Zach Bagans, and Ghost Adventures, they primarily put the majority of places on the map here in the U.S. Those places are now very well-known hotspots for the most part. Waverly Hills, Nopeming Sanatorium, a number of casinos, old museums, old hotels. They all got put on the map because of these larger paranormal investigative groups that are strictly entertainment. Whether you like me saying that or not is besides the point. That is what happened. And now these places, if you were to go to them, and I've seen this happen on a few different occasions now, if you go to them and you say you don't have any experiences there, they say, oh, you're lying. You're just jealous. We have them all the time. They even have named spirits at these locations, which is also a standard in the paranormal field. For any location you go to, they have a named entity. They call him the Creep. They call him George. They call him Frankie. They call them Little Rose. It's a little girl. It's a little boy. It's a man wearing a hat. It's a person wearing bib overalls. These locations have their own entities that they see all the time. But the only ones that ever get that information, that see these people, these entities, these spirits, are paranormal entertainers. These locations will take you on a tour more often than not, which then creates a huge bias inside of your own brain. Because you're like, oh, this is the hot spot. This is what I'm supposed to expect to see here. I understand giving the history. Locations should give the history because usually locations have a rich history. They really should not be priming the people that are going there to investigate, because that ruins the investigation from the get-go. That creates a researcher bias. and it's terrible. I am completely against it wholeheartedly, which is why I've asked people to not tell me the claims of various locations, and they've done very well not to do that, because I want to validate the claims on my own accord. If I record something and I don't tell anyone what I record, and then I ask for the claims, they can't say what I recorded is exactly that. I'm going off of what they have claimed after my recording has been finished. That way I can see what it is. And I can say, you know what? I did have that happen. Rather than, oh, this is supposed to happen here. Of course this is what's going on. Paranormal entertainers and paranormal locations rely on each other in a crazy symbiotic relationship. Without the entertainers, there is no location. Without the locations, there are no entertainers. It is all about this dollar. And you're going to continue to keep chasing it. And then these entertainers and these locations and even some investigators, Jason Hawes is the one I'm going to name here, they have basically a cult following, each section of them. Entertainers, locations, and investigators. They all get their own little cult following. These cult followings also have standards that they go by. Some of them are quite nice and they try to be relaxed and calm, cool, and collective. Others not so much. Some of them will fight tooth and nail for who they believe is right. Some of them are so hardcore you would almost imagine them going ho, 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 any chance they got on anyone that they believe is in the right. Twin Paranormal is one that comes to mind, where their group almost went after people in a mob-like mentality. It is a standard to have people that will do that. I've seen it on individuals who are in the debunking community, right? Beardo Gets Scared is one that comes to mind, where he did have a couple of individuals get a little heated when someone called him out on something. Which, to me, as an individual who is not a paranormal content creator, I am not inside the inner circles of these groups, is rather frightening. But it is a standard. It is a standard in the paranormal to defend what you believe in and defend your statements to an extreme sometimes. Most Haunted does that as well. They do copyright strikes on a regular. Sam and Kobe have done a fair bit of defending. Elton Castee from Overnight definitely has done some defending on his actions. Some of these entertainers definitely do. And they will defend the blatant fakery that they do perform, because some of it is very obvious. You have a decent set of headphones, you can hear the clicks, you can hear the buzzes, you can hear things go off. You can hear the whispers, you can hear the sudden overlays kick in. You can. That, again, is a standard in the paranormal that shouldn't be. But it is. And you see it everywhere. Because it's all about making the money. It's no longer about seeking the actual truth of the paranormal. I've been asked my personal opinion on this a few times. Is it worth investigating anymore? Is it worth looking into anymore? Have we found all there is to find? Is there absolutely nothing? I don't know. But what I can tell you is that the current set standard for doing an investigation the way that paranormal entertainers do them, you'll never be able to find anything. Nothing legit. Because anything that would be legit is lost. It is lost in all of the fakery, all of the embellishing, all of the downright atrocious lying. That's where it's lost in. If we were to change the standards, which the current standards are faulty devices, misuse of devices, use of overlays, embellishing actions, never seeking the debunk, attacking those who debunk, going to big name locations, praising the locations to charge more. Those are bad standards that we go by. Those are terrible standards that we go by. But that's the overall paranormal field. Proper paranormal investigators have to start creating a standard to go by. And have little deviations for themselves individually. Sure, fine, perfect. It's a great idea, do it. But unless the paranormal investigators that are out there, that do work together, that make things side by side with each other, unless they start creating a new standard, one that's based more off of science, with data loggers, with anything to measure properly, bring in laser leveling tools, find the pitch of rooms, look at objects on the walls. If they look like they're going to fall, maybe, just maybe, take a moment and push them all the way back. That way, you know, it's not gravity pulling them. It's not micro vibrations dropping them during your investigation. Get a more hands-on approach with your investigation to use science, to use physics. Use devices made to give you proper results. So that the only thing you have left in your hand at the end of that day, after using everything scientific and logically sound, that there becomes your paranormal. Because paranormal then becomes the only answer to your question. Entertainers are not going to do it. The investigators have to. I tend to do that. When I get out into the field, and I've been invited to go on a couple different investigations with people at this point in time, I plan on doing science. I plan on measuring, taking the room temperature as it's ambient. That is what we need to do as investigators. We hear a claim, figure out what's going on with the claim. Sit in that space where the claim is at. But do not assume that every bump you hear, every click, every water droplet, every whoo outside is a spirit. Don't be like a paranormal entertainer. Don't live at those standards. Make new standards. Better standards. Because that's what we need in the paranormal. And until we do that, I don't know if there's anything to investigate anymore. But that's just my opinion. You guys have a good one.